tell you about the backstory to the flash mob opera, which happened on the 15th of May 2022. Nothing normally happens without a backstory, and this is the backstory for this particular event. For some reason, flash mob operas grabbed me. I perhaps saw the first one I'd ever seen a year ago, and for some reason it struck some sort of massive chord in my body, and I started to weep uncontrollably, and I was literally blubbing. Now, you're talking about a guy who didn't shed a tear when his parents passed on, and here I am watching a flash mob opera and weeping. I've always believed that if something doesn't stimulate a deep emotion, then it's unimportant. And I think this is true of everything in life. If it doesn't matter to you, then it's insignificant. The only things that matter are the things that make you laugh and make you cry. Those are the important things. And for me, this was something very important when I realized within myself that I had this deep connection with flash mob operas. Strange thing, but here it is. I wanted to do one. I wanted to do one quite badly, but like Nelson Mandela said, everything seems impossible until it's done. And that's how it felt for me. And I really saw no way that I could do a flash mob. I mean, I'm not connected to anybody in that kind of world, really. And then something happened. It was in March 2022. I was invited to an event. It was a Women's Day event, March 2022, Women's Day, 8th of March. I went to this event, and there they had an entertainer. His name was Wiseman. And Wiseman sang opera. Sang opera so beautifully, completely, so thoroughly, so deeply, that I got those goosebumps that you can only get from opera. There's no other music that does that for you. Opera does that. And I thought to myself, jeepers, this guy is great. It never occurred to me at that point in time to do a flash mob opera, but I thought he has enough talent for me to hire him for my own private function. I would love to have like a braai here, a barbecue, where Wiseman pitches up and gives us a couple of beautiful songs before the braai, after the braai, whatever. And it's nice in that you're hiring somebody to do the talent and you're paying them money, which is what they need most. I kept this on the back of my mind. And then one day I went to the airport to drop somebody off. And it occurred to me, they've got a piano here in the airport. That piano just sits there, does nothing, nobody plays it. I thought, well, I must play that piano. So the very next time I went to the airport, and just to give you a bit of a backstory here, I don't play the piano. I learned to play the piano during lockdown, which is quite recent. My piano playing skills are modest, to say the least. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to play this piano because it's those things that make you so nervous that you think they're going to bite you, that if you do them often enough, they become old hat. And little did I know that would become really important later on. So I went to the airport to drop off Tracy. I dropped off Tracy and I went to the piano. I sat myself down and I played, and it sounded terrible. Two reasons that it sounded terrible. First of all, I was a terrible piano player. Secondly, I got the notes all wrong because I got so nervous. I was playing the two notes when I should have been playing one, that kind of thing. And thirdly, the piano was horribly out of tune. The combination of that spelt disaster, but it mattered not to me. It mattered not. I'd done it, and that was very important. I did that, and then ever since then, whenever I go to the airport, I force myself to play it. Of course, it's become a little bit less anxiety ridden. I now knew it sort of dawned on me that I wanted to do a flash mob opera at the airport. They've got a piano there. We should be able to do that. The next issue is, who do you contact? Who do you speak to get permission to go and do a flash mob opera at the airport? And what are the consequences if you don't ask permission and you just go straight in there and just do one, you know, somehow? I decided I didn't want to do it that way around. I didn't want to, like, spring this on the airport and then get arrested and all that kind of things. And I have had that kind of thing happen to me in the past because I'm not much of a conformist. I decided that I wanted to do it properly. And then it occurred to me, I do have a friend who's a guitar player. He busks at the airport. You may have seen him. His name's Milton. He's fantastic, by the way, so look him up. But anyway, I said to Milton, who's a friend of mine, I paint and he plays guitar. I said to him, who are the people that I can ask about doing this? He said, I don't know. He said, I'll try and find out. And I didn't really hold much store, but hey, Milton came up with the goods. He came back and he said, right, this is the person. And he gave me a phone number. And I considered texting her and all those things. And I thought, no, you know what, I should just phone. I was nervous. To phone. Anyway, I phoned and there was no response. 5 minutes later, she phoned me back. I was really surprised. She said, you know, you called? I said, yeah. Well, my name is Steve Mandy and all the rest of stuff. And I told her my idea for a flash mob opera. And to my surprise, she knew all about flash mob operas. She's obviously trawled them the same way that I did before. She was receptive to the idea, which was very cool. She said, send me an email with your proposal. So I sat down and I wrote out exactly how it was going to happen. This person's going to start playing the piano, this other person's going to be in the crowd and he's just going to come forward and start singing, and another one's going to be pretending to be working for Woolworths and she's going to come out and do her thing. Just gave the whole rundown. To my absolute astonishment, she forwarded my email to all the relevant departments that all came back with a resounding yes, great idea, piano's out of tune, and you must make sure that you're wearing masks, and you must make sure that you don't block the entrances or the exits, and you know, all sorts of things, which safety regulations and stuff. But it was a yes. So I got hold of Wiseman and I said to him, Wiseman, we've got the okay to do this flash mob opera at the airport. I said, do you know anybody, a female singer who sings soprano, that can accompany us? And he said, well, let me work with it. He came back a couple of days later. He said, I've got somebody for you. Her name is Yondela and she's actually quite keen. So I phoned Yondela and she was keen, and I set it up for them to come into town. Now, bear in mind that at that stage, Wiseman lived in a place called the Nanda Dam, which is about, I would say, almost an hour's drive from Durban. And he was going to have to find a taxi to take him all the way to town so I could pick him up from town and take him to my place for the rehearsal. Yondela lives a similar, in fact, perhaps even further. She lives in Changa, further destination away from Durban. So it was just difficult for her, and of course expensive. So I had to send them money. They're both not, well, Wiseman's unemployed, and I don't think Yondela earns a lot of money. So I had to send them both money so that they could come into town, and then I had to make sure that they had enough airtime so that they could phone me when they got here. And we organized it, and they came through one Sunday and we had our first rehearsal. And that was the first time I realized how close we were, because there was a spontaneity about how beautifully they sang, and more importantly, there was an incredible power when they sang together. It was absolutely mind-boggling. And here they were in my house and playing to Steve Mandy's chinky-chonky piano playing, and they were just such talents, both of them. Anyway, I felt very proud. We did the first rehearsal. But before I talk about the rehearsal, the very, very first thing that we had to organise, which nobody ever thinks about, is having that blooming piano fixed. So we got my friend Lloyd Mshlangu to come through and sort it out for us. So this is my friend Lloyd tuning the piano. The first step towards having this flash mob opera. It's going to be amazing. So here it is, our first rehearsal. So I'm going to stay here for as long as it takes for you to find your... when you're ready, you can start.
All right.
Sitting at the tennis at the beach.
I see the they can't sing this right.
At the beach.
Okay.
I see a warm embrace. Man is holding it.
I see the warm
It's
embrace.
beautiful.
The man is holding on in sadness.
With sadness on her face. Okay, so then it goes into the chorus.
I think it's just to make the things easier. Can you maybe just repeat it so that you can maybe get used to it?
Yeah, get to know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it again.
Yeah.
The first rehearsal was really encouraging. The guys gelled so well, and I was really excited about the second rehearsal we planned to have, and everything was going smoothly, and then disaster struck. And when I say disaster, I mean real disaster. The floods from the 18th to the 24th of April. There was torrential rain in Durban, so bad that whole container trucks were simply washed away out into the ocean, and houses disappeared. And one of the victims of that tragedy was Wiseman. He came home to find that his home no longer existed, and along with his home were all his possessions. So we had to postpone the next rehearsal because it was just too traumatic for him, and he didn't even have a place to stay that night, you know. So anyway, he managed to find a place to stay, and then he started renting a place. And his mum and his sister moved in with a relative that just physically wasn't enough space for Wiseman as well. So he had to go and find his own space. So consider for a moment what it must be like to be unemployed and have to go and find a place to stay with no money. So I forwarded him some money so that he could get himself out of this place that he was at this moment in time. And he found a place, and we set up to do the rehearsal the next Sunday. Next Sunday came, and we were supposed to be meeting at 9 o'clock in town. 11 o'clock comes, and of course there's nobody there. Yondela's arrived, but Wiseman texted me to say, or WhatsApp me to say that he's got a bit of a problem and he'll sort it out and he'll come through as soon as he can. There's a bit of a problem was not a bit of a problem at all. He was about to be evicted from his house, from the premise that he was staying in. He needed 760 Rand, $50, to pay the rent for a month, and he just didn't have it, and he had no means to get it. So once again, I had to send him a couple of bob so that he would have a roof over his head. And as I sent the money, the landlord allowed him to go. So fine, and he pitched up at my place, and we managed to do our second rehearsal, and this is how it went.
I'm gonna start walking down. So
It would be nice if the story ended right there and we all lived happily ever after, but it doesn't, unfortunately. Despite our efforts, we've been told that we can do another flash mob at the airport, which is wonderful, but nobody's going to give Wiseman any money. And we've also been invited to do a performance at the welcoming of the whales, but they haven't got any money to pay for us to do the performance. There's actually no chance of that happening at this point in time. So whilst all these wonderful things took place, nothing changed. Wiseman's position is still one of a tenuous nature. He has no money to pay for next month's rent. And although just a couple of days ago, he was a hero, someone that people want to have their photographs taken with. If he gets a job as a car guard now, he'll be lucky. It's a crazy society we live in. There must be a way. If you can think of a way that we can help Wiseman, and I'm not talking about donations, I'm talking about giving him a platform which is capable of paying his requirements just to survive. And if that doesn't happen, then I will buy him an orange jacket and he'll become a car guard. I'm Steve Mandy from Travelling Easel.